This is our main concern today. We're going to try and, if you can see this, I'm not sure if you can, we're going to try and get rid of this as much as possible. Now these are really deep scratches. I don't know if this was up against a dock or if during the hurricane this had something bashing up against it, but I'm going to try and get rid of as much of this as possible, and then I want to work on the rest of this hull to get it to shine. First thing I'm going to do is get out some bleach or some boat soap and wash all this off. Like all this, need to wash all that stuff off, and we'll cut over these stickers. I'm not going to remove the stickers, we're going to polish over them, but this right here I'm going to try and get out with 800 grit sandpaper, wet sand first, and get as much out of this as possible. Then we'll come back with 1,000 and cut it and polish it and hopefully get the majority of these scratches out of the hull. Now that we've got the boat all nice and clean, we've got a couple of concerns here when it comes to wet sanding this. I mean, as you can see, the boat's really dull. The color's faded. Again, it's a 20-year-old boat, but when it comes to wet sanding, we're going to be taking off gel coat. And so as we get rid of these scratches and these scuffs and all this and smooth this out, the potential of changing the color and noticing a spot right here is a very serious concern. Because if if the whole boat has this discolored or off-white color to the gel coat tint because it's being 20 years old, then as we take this off, this might get whiter or a different shade of white than the rest of it. So we need to be having that in mind. So as we take off this gel coat and clean this off, we're going to need to be checking it periodically to make sure that it's not starting to discolor, because if you go too far, then you're gonna have a spot here and you'll have to do the entire boat, and the rest of the boat's really not that bad. I mean, I'll have to take off these letters here, but the rest of the boat, a good cut is going to make it shine. I mean, this over here, this is not really bad with oxidization, it just needs to be cut and polished. These letters are actually good, I can leave those on, but yeah, this boat doesn't have any oxidization or anything like that. So as soon as we cut it, it's going to look like it does up here on the top. Really pretty, really clean, really shiny. But that is something that we are concerned about over here. So I just wanted to put that out there. Now I'm going to start with 800. I'm going to just wet the surface, and we're going to take, this is 800 grit sandpaper, no holes, on just a regular orbital. We're going to have the speed lower, and we'll just wet this and kind of start sanding down and see what it looks like. Okay, that did not take a whole lot of work. That got rid of a ton of scratches. There's still a lot of these deep ones, so we're gonna hit it up again, but it does look like if we do too much, you can kind of see the difference in here and here. I don't know if I'll be able to cut that out. As far as the discoloration, looks like we got more back here. You know what I might do? I might go ahead and get out my eraser wheel, take these off, and then come out here with the cut, and I'll cut this section just to kind of see what the cut's gonna do. And then after I cut it, because you can see there's a bunch of scratches here too, it's kind of hard to see them in the light, but there's scratches here that need to be gone. A lot of these came out with the 800 grit. There's still quite a few left, but I want to cut this to make sure that we won't have that discoloration issue that I was talking about. So the eraser wheel does really well with taking these off, but once you get them off, you'll notice, like, obviously here's a big difference in the gel coat and the coloration and it being raised up, but you'll notice that there'll be residue left over from these stickers, and this right here is what you need. 3M adhesive remover. But part number, is there a part number on here? Because you're going to want to know that. But let me show you how this stuff works. I'm going to take these off, and then you'll see the residue that's left, and this stuff's amazing. Okay, so this looks like it would be a pain to get off of here. That's all the residue left. We just need to take an old dirty rag, take some of our adhesive remover, spray some of that on there, and just wipe this stuff off. Not saying that it doesn't take a little bit of elbow grease, but as you can see, not really a problem when it comes to the adhesive. Stuff works amazing. So I'm gonna go ahead and kind of work this a little bit more, get the rest of the stuff off here. Then I'll get out my polisher and we'll cut this section before we continue on with the wet sand, just because I don't want to have a massive discoloration like you do here. You can see the difference in that right there. I want to minimize the amount of wet sanding. I don't want to wet sand this whole boat. Okay, so we are actually not seeing any color differences in where we wet sanded compared to where we cut. I do see quite a bit of imperfections in the gel coat though, like, you know, right there, that could realistically, all that needs to be wet sanded to get a lot of this, like this stuff off of the boat. That needs to be hit up pretty good with a wet sand in order to get those imperfections out of the gel coat. But as far as discoloration, I don't have to worry about that. So I'm going to continue on with my wet sand and work as much of these scratches out of the boat. I mean, as you can kind of see, I don't know if you can really see that in the, I don't think you can see this in the camera as much as need to be like right here. Yeah, it's very difficult to see in the camera, but believe me, there are tons of scratches all over this section right here. I don't know, this must have been on a dock or something, was just beating this thing up. So that is looking really good. I think I'm going to be done with the 800 here. This just this is looking really good. I need to hit this section right here a little bit more, just right here, this little box. I need to hit that with the 800. Then I'm going to come back with 1,000 grit on top of that. So this is all 800 grit. I'm going to now come back after I hit this little section here with the 800 a little bit more, because you can still see these little, you can still see a lot of little nicks. But once I hit this little section here, I'll come back with the 1,000 over everything, and then we'll cut this back in, because you'll be able, I mean, you could see the difference in here and here because I've been sanding it. So now that we've gotten a lot of the scratches out, we now need to take the dull scratches, being the 800 grit that we put into the gel coat, out, and we'll do that with the 1,000 grit. And that's what we look like with the 1,000 grit hit. Obviously there are still some deep scratches in here. You're not going to be able to get all those out of there. You'd have to do a lot more work. Some of these deep scratches, these realistically they would need to be filled with gel coat just because they're so deep. But it doesn't look near as catastrophic and terrible as it did before. So that is 800 grit and then 1,000 grit. All you do with your sander is you go in like a square. So pick yourself a square to work in, and you go back and forth one way. And then when you get to the bottom, then you just go up and down inside that square, and just back and forth, up and down, all in that square. And you just move your square down as you work it. 800 grit, 1000 grit. Now we're going to cut this with the pressed super cut and the compounding pad, and we'll see what this looks like with just the compound, no polish or wax. But we'll see the difference in how many scratches we had before to how many scratches we have now. And that is all cut. Now you can still see, I don't know if you'll be able to see it in the camera because I've got most of them out, but you can still see certain spots where I probably could have sanded this a little bit more. These are a little bit deeper. That one probably could have got a little bit more work, but all this right here looks really, really good, except for the deep stuff. Like I said, you're not gonna, I don't know if you can really even see any of these, but there are some deep scratches still here. But again, when you're looking at it from the side or anywhere else, you can't even see them. They're like hidden. Like if you're right here, you can't even see them, and then if you're right here, you can't even see them. Now when you get on down to the side and you start looking around it, you can see them, but that's so much better. I mean, 1000% better. I cut back to there. I kind of want to switch out my pads and just polish this and wax it just to see what it looks like, but I probably won't. I should just keep on, just go ahead and start cutting. I need to, now this section's done basically, I just need to cut the rest of the boat. So that means we gotta cut this right here. I don't know, I'm not gonna get down on the ground right here. That section right there is going to be what it's going to be. This boat really needs to be taken off of the trailer to address any of that stuff. So I might cut, you know, that section right there, but mainly just the gunnels right here, the back. I'm just going to go around the whole boat and cut it. I don't know what'll happen with the lettering here, whether or not that'll stay on there or what it'll look like, but for right now I'm just going to cut right over it and see if it'll stay on there. But you can see a massive difference in this boat already, and that is just with the cut. That's not even polished or waxed yet. This thing's gonna shine. We are looking beautiful. So now that the entire boat has been cut, got our pad switched out. So this is not the compounding pad, that's the polishing pad. So now we can go ahead and start polishing the boat. Again, look how pretty this is up here. All those scratches, pretty much you can't even see them. Awesome. So we're going to start with our polish here, and the polish is just the 3M light cutting polish plus wax. Hit this up, and then after that we'll go ahead and wax the boat with some Colonite. But let's see how this looks after we polish it. This is a pretty boat. So everything is polished now. What I'm gonna do is go ahead and put a coat of wax on here just to get it on there, get it done. But look at this, all those scratches, like you can't even see 80% of them. We've probably gotten rid of 80% of the scratches with that wet sand, the cutting, the compounding. I mean, there's still, like, I can't even see any here. You can say there's some of the deep ones there, but all those are gone, all those are gone. There's some deep ones here, all these are gone, and then there's that group of deep ones there. But other than that, this thing, those are all gone. This was a beautiful success. Let me put a coat of wax on there real quick and I'll show you that, and that'll be it for today. That looks amazing. All those scratches, just can't even see the ones that are left, the deep ones, full of wax, just absolutely stellar, amazing. So there you go. That's how you get rid of small scratches in your gel coat, as long as they're little ones. But if they're big deep ones like this or like that, you're not gonna be able to get rid of those. Those will actually need to be filled. You can't really sand those out. But right here is a good demonstration. So you see how deep that scratch is? You can see how thick the gel coat is. So on these little scratches like this, you can sand stuff like that out of the boat. Just make sure that you don't go too deep, because you can get through it and you can discolor it. So be careful of those two things if you're trying to do something like this. But as you can see from where we came this morning and where we're at now, this is amazing.